Joining me with reaction is Fox News contributor, author of, get this, brand new book right there, American Individualism. And I got my signed copy right here. You see?
Yes, you do.
Margaret Hoover. And it's right there. And former Senator McCain advisors, author of the book. It's a sex thriller, 18 Acres, now out in paperback. What? Look at your mouth. Look at her.
I can't believe you said
do what you just did.
You
calls it that every time.
She went like this. You just did. No.
And you behaved.
Wait, people call yours a sex thriller.
Wait a minute. She wrote a book about the first female president in the country who's married to a guy who cheats on her.
Wow.
What do you call
Okay,
that?
but listen, I can connect it to the topic of the night. So I am personally obsessed with the special indignities suffered by women in politics. And I think that I write about it in a fictional context, but unfortunately, I think Michelle Bachmann is experiencing it in a very real way. And I think that it is certainly an appropriate hurdle for anyone running for president to prove their fitness for office. But a doctor has released a letter. She has addressed and answered the questions. And the real test now is what happens next.
I think this is a great point. Now, by the way, this may shock everybody. I get headaches.
Yeah.
And I take Excedrin migraine. Right. Does that make me...
magical stuff.
And guess what? I show up at work every day. Does anyone else get a headache? I get a headache.
But who doesn't think that women can show up for work with a headache?
Yeah.
I mean, this is ludicrous. This reminds me of the old jokes about how a woman can't be president.
That's a point I didn't think of.
Can you imagine a male candidate running for office and a slanderous notion comes out about him that he can't run the country because he's too weak, he gets headaches? Yeah. This would never happen to a male candidate. I smell a rat, too, because I think the Republican primary is getting tight. I think there are some candidates who are not doing as well as they had hoped. And I just wonder if this isn't really nasty mudslinging on the Republican side back and forth. And it's really unseemly, and it's actually sexist. I write about a new Republican feminism in my book. Actually.
Yeah, well, I was going to ask you about this because you did not write a sex thriller. Like Nicole Wallace. Your father's going to kill me, right?
You might actually read it.
I'm trying to get him to.
Keep it up.
All right, good for him. But here's the point. You are saying, you talk about this new feminism, you talk about the youth vote in the book, and, you know, the young people aren't getting jobs. Minorities are not getting jobs. Obama's policies hurting everybody.
What my book is about is how to connect conservatism to the next generation, because there's really a gap in terms of Republican voting and millennial voting. Millennials were born at the beginning of the Reagan era, the end of the Clinton presidency, and we have about 16 months to make inroads with them if we're going to get them back, because partisan identity solidifies after two presidential elections.
Won't the failure of Obama get them back? If you can't get a job, are you going to vote for the guy that promised hope, change, and 8% unemployment?
They have definitely been disappointed, and there is certainly an opening because of the economy. They didn't turn out in 2012 nearly the numbers they did at 2011, nearly the numbers they did the last off-year election cycle. So we have a real opportunity, but now is the sweet spot. And we should communicate this overspending as generational theft, because we are stealing their fiscal future by not
robbing them. But, you know, Senator McCain, you work with him, said that a lot on the campaign trail. We're taking a sledgehammer to the piggy banks of our kids.
He did, and, you know, and he lost the youth vote by
32 points.
Incredible.
He's so young. I mean, that's amazing.
But Reagan was young. Reagan wasn't young either, and Reagan won the youth vote by 20% in 1984.
What is the difference? All right, let me ask Nicole first. What was the difference? That's a good point.
Well, look, let's go back to where we started. I think Michelle Bachmann is surging in part because she's an anti-politician, and I think the youth is more skeptical than probably any other group about the typical politician. Their disdain for Washington isn't rooted in the same things that the disdain that older people feel for Washington is rooted in. That's a history of watching scandals like Watergate and whatnot. The youth are disinterested in Washington because they look impotent. They can't get along, and they really, you know, haven't delivered anything for them. They're simply, you know, riding these programs that have been around forever into the ground.
Well, Nicole's absolutely right. I think John McCain suffered a little bit from Republican brand damage, frankly. But this generation, if you have to characterize them, they're actually not partisan ideologues. They're pretty pragmatic in their politics, and Barack Obama delivered them, like you, Sean, but Barack Obama really delivered them a promise of moving beyond partisanship, and his own rhetoric has actually undermined his promise.
Now he's got a record to run on. That's
correct.
All right, sex thriller, 18 Acres, and American Individualism, which talks about everything else.
How a new generation of conservatives can save the Republican Party.
That's right. Congratulations.